Our storm is exiting here across northern Utah, but I'm tracking the timing of our next system as it moves in. But first, areas of fog and hard freezes for tonight. I'll let you know if you'll be impacted.
The old Raging Waters Water Park in Glendale is getting torn down. What neighbors say they would like to see here and how you can give your input too.
My guess it would be a construction worker, but again, we have no idea.
One Harriman family is looking for answers after piles of debris end up dumped in their yard.
Is Utah becoming California? The debate at the Silicon Slopes Summit and the promises made about that concern.
Finding that balance has been really difficult.
Nurses, teachers are battling compassion fatigue, what that is and how you can help.
There is some incentive now.
In a time of desperation, one school district is getting creative when it comes to filling substitute teacher needs. We'll show you how.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9, starts right now.
It is another chilly night here in Utah. We saw some rain and snow along the Wasatch Front today, but there is relief on the horizon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Amy Nay, filling in for Kelly. Tonight, we go to Fox 13 meteorologist Allison Krogan, who's been tracking all the changes. She's got the very latest for us. What we need to know. Hi there, Allison.
It seems like a whole different season come this weekend, but first, tomorrow morning, it'll be a very cold start. A live look right now from our Oquirrh cam. You can actually see down into the valley, so we have better visibility. 43 degrees, but visibility could become a concern tonight with areas of fog. But we're starting to see those clouds clearing here across northern Utah. A few sprinkles possible along I-80 up towards Evanston, but what we can really expect tonight, very cold temperatures here across Utah with mostly clear sky. So as you wake up tomorrow here along the Wasatch Front, prepare for mid-30s to low 30s. For Salt Lake City, 5 a.m., 7 a.m. So as you send those kids out to school tomorrow morning, still the winter jacket. And then by tomorrow afternoon, you could probably get away with a lighter jacket, but certainly you want to bundle up as you head out the door. So Futurecast keeps things dry through tomorrow morning, but other problems tonight with those cold temperatures and also areas of fog where that could be forming this evening, and also the timing of our next storm coming up later in the hour.
All right, Allison, thank you. The iconic Raging Waters Park in Salt Lake City's Glendale neighborhood is being dismantled after years of sitting abandoned.
It sits on 17 acres in Salt Lake City's west side at 1700 South, 1200 West. Fox 13's Haley Higgins takes a look at the deconstruction project and what comes next.
Looking a lot like a post-apocalyptic landscape, Raging Waters will disappear forever this fall.
The big one that goes up and down, that one was pretty fun.
Vika Satini spent every summer here, first as a teen, then with her own children.
My kids loved it, and I loved it.
Seemed like every neighborhood kid either worked here or played at the water park.
Kept kids off the streets in the summer and even sometimes nighttime. Like it would close at 9, 8:30 at night. So after that, everybody go home and eat dinner and sleep. So that was pretty much every day for everybody.
Right now, city crews are taking apart the slides, filling in the pools and removing the paving will be next.
I just feel like this is so sad.
In the early 1980s, the iconic water playground boasted one of only 3 wave pools in the world. Raging Waters, then later Seven Peaks, put Salt Lake City on the map.
This was an institution both for the neighborhood and for the whole Wasatch Front.
Now the pools leak and the equipment unsafe. It's a magnet for mischief and crime.
We get a lot of folks who camp here. We get a lot of folks who wanted to play on big slides and were injured. Folks that messed with, electrical things, lit fires in the buildings.
The site was purchased with state money, so it must be used for outdoor recreation. For now, though, demolition is the only solid plan. The city of Salt Lake says that they're doing everything they can to recycle with this project. They want to take the concrete, crush it up, and use it as a road base for further projects. Satini hopes something just as exciting will return for the Glendale neighborhood.
Even if they brought back like a public pool or like something with maybe smaller slides, a splash pad would be so great.
Trying to keep memories afloat long after the water park is gone. In Salt Lake City, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
quite a thing. The city is taking public input on what to do with the land there. A master plan is expected next spring, and work on the project is expected to start in summer of 2022.
Gabby Petito's family was in Wyoming today to take her remains back home to New York.
The coroner announced earlier this week that Gabby was strangled to death at the end of August. Police continue to look for her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. It has now been a month since his parents say they last saw him. Today, a cadaver dog joined the search in the large Florida preserve where efforts have been focused.
West Valley City Police need you to be looking for this car. They say this 2012 white Chevy Malibu is what 34-year-old Noel Munoz Lopez is driving. Police are now calling him a suspect in the deadly shooting of 82-year-old Farrell Barkey earlier this month. The car has a Utah In God We Trust license plate number 9P6EE. The U.S. Marshal's Office is offering a $2,000 reward. If you see the car or know where Lopez is, call West Valley City Police.
In Summit County, meantime, charges have been filed against a man accused of shooting and killing his roommate last week. The Summit County Sheriff's Office says 50-year-old John Craig of Park City was found dead outside a Highland Estates home October 7th. Deputies found another man nearby. 58-year-old James Ramsdell had a gunshot wound to his hand. Investigators say they had gotten into a fight while drinking, and Ramsdell shot and killed Craig. Ramsdell is being held without bail in the Summit County Jail.
Today, the Salt Lake City Police Department honored an officer who was shot and killed in the line of duty almost 100 years ago. In November of 1922, Sergeant Nephi Pierce was responding to reports of two men involved in a robbery. When he arrived, one of the suspects pulled a gun and shot him. He survived for several months, but then passed away in March of 1923. The Salt Lake Police Department dedicated a plaque to Sergeant Pierce today as part of their commitment to honor every officer who was killed in the line of duty.
What's really sad is after he succumbed to his injuries, his wife committed suicide 3 months later. They had no known descendants. So it's our commitment to all of our fallen officers, and especially Sergeant Pierce, that we will never forget them.
Sergeant Pierce's plaque was donated by the Police Mutual Aid Association. It was cast in bronze, which is especially important to Police Chief Brown because the Bronze Age, according to Greek mythology, was the age of heroes.
Sergeant Pierce was one of 25 fallen officers that the Salt Lake City Police Department honored today. Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall gave a heartfelt speech during the ceremony honoring the officers. She addressed the ever-growing dangers of a police officer's job, particularly in capital cities across the country. She also commended the bravery of each officer who chooses to wear the badge.
But days like today, these cold days when we can gather to remember those fallen officers and express our gratitude to the officers who continue to come back to work each and every day, are important for those of us who don't wear the badge.
The ceremony, normally held in May in connection with National Police Week, but it was held today after it had to be postponed due to the pandemic.
New tonight, a Harriman family is left with an expensive cleanup bill after they say someone illegally dumped huge piles of trash and debris in their backyard.
Pretty shocking to see just how much was dumped. As Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher shows us, what was left behind may give clues as to who did it. It's a story you'll only see here.
There's a lot to do before winter.
See, we're trying to put mats down and everything. It's like winter's coming way too fast.
Not only is Courtney Smithson getting her horses bugged and bandaged, ready for the season.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
She just cleared out her mom's Harriman property so the two can roam freely.
So we have our horses right now in that small pen. We have 2.5 acres.
She was just about to fence in the chunk of land when...
And somebody came in with a dump load of, as you can see, rocks and debris, and there's concrete and bricks, and just dumped all along our property.
Courtney says her 85-year-old grandmother was home at the time, but didn't realize what was happening.
It was the course over probably 30 minutes or so. She said that there was multiple trucks, and it was probably a good 6 loads.
And it's not like these piles are going to be easy to clean up. You can see how big some of these rocks are. They're going to need heavy equipment just to get this out.
They don't know who left Courtney's mom with these lovely loads or why they chose this property. Courtney's only guess.
There's a lot of construction being built over in High Country. My guess it would be a construction worker, but again, we have no idea.
Now, instead of creating more space for Bugs and Bandit, getting ready for winter will mean getting rid of all this debris.
We're hopeful that we're able to get it out in time before the snow comes, but again, it's just my mother and me, and we don't have the equipment to load it up and take it where we need to go. So my horses are probably gonna have to stay in that pen all winter.
In Harriman, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
According to the Utah Criminal Code, this is considered illegal dumping. Smithson says they didn't file a police report because they didn't think it would go anywhere, especially because the family doesn't have any secure video of what happened.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
On social media, on like public posts, things like that, I've just lost it because people aren't supportive.
After more than 19 months of the pandemic, is compassion running low for healthcare workers, educators, and patients? We'll look at compassion fatigue and what can be done to support people who are struggling.
Last year was probably the most difficult year in the history of education.
School districts around the state are suffering from a severe lack of substitute teachers. What one district is trying to bring them back to the classroom.
And we've learned former President Bill Clinton is in the hospital tonight. We'll let you know why and get you up to speed on his recovery.
Almost 2 years into the pandemic, the mental strain and demanding work leaves educators and healthcare workers battling compassion fatigue.
It's left them second-guessing their purpose or even questioning whether anyone's noticing their effort.
Fox 13's Emily Tenser shares their struggles and how you can help.
At the start of the pandemic, healthcare workers and educators felt the community support. They were touched by the homemade thank you cards, the free meals, and the kind words. But now the challenges of the pandemic have taken a toll on their mental health and motivation. Intermountain Medical Center ICU nurse Janine Roberts does her best to stay optimistic, but she knows the hard work is far from over.
We are in the long haul. This is the long haul.
As COVID-19 cases seem to be ramping back up, she's noticed nurses and doctors struggling with compassion fatigue.
That's where healthcare providers, caregivers begin to distance themselves and, emotionally are damaged from maybe moral, ethical, just struggles of, how long can I keep doing this? There's so much pressure to perform.
And with misinformation and mistrust in medicine, she can feel community support wavering.
On social media, on like public posts, things like that, I've just lost it because people aren't supportive. They're very distrusting.
As for educators, Heidi Matthews with the state's Education Association says exhaustion varies by district.
The fatigue comes when you're not seeing the progress or you're not being able to achieve what is what our kids need.
She says safety concerns, additional responsibilities, and staffing shortages are taking a toll on teachers. They stress for their students, but also their loved ones.
They care about their students. They care about their students' families, but they also have their own families and their own circumstances. And finding that balance has been really difficult for everyone.
If your life has returned relatively normal, they ask you to think of those still fighting in the thick of it all.
Reach out to them and thank them. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but just let them know that they are in a really tough career right now. And the fact that they have remained in it for whatever period of time is really special. And it does take a special kind of person.
Both Roberts and Matthews say their employers have recognized that mental health resources need to be available for teachers and nurses during this time. Reporting at Intermountain Medical Center, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Emily, thank you. And if you'd like to help some of the healthcare workers on the front line in this pandemic, to COVID-19 research and to help pay for supplies, University of Utah Health has a web page where you can easily donate. We've actually put a link there for you at fox13now.com.
The Utah Highway Patrol is teaming up with UDOT and the Zero Fatalities campaign to put together a Utah Teen Memorial. 43 teens were killed on Utah roads in 2019 and 2020. One of them was 17-year-old Chaz Grote. His parents say he was an accomplished race car driver, but that didn't prevent him from losing control after hitting a curb while speeding around a corner near his home.
It can happen to anyone, the blink of an eye. It's not the few seconds of adrenaline of speeding is not worth your life or someone else's life.
A reminder for drivers and pedestrians, please slow down and pay attention. Fox 13 is a proud partner with UDOT and the Department of Public Safety to help end fatalities on Utah's roads. To find out more about what you can do, visit zerofataliesut.com.
Marijuana continues to be a big business in Nevada. New numbers released by Nevada's Department of Taxation show taxable sales last year were more than $1 billion. That's actually $318 million more than the previous year, and in a pandemic. Some of the money made from recreational marijuana sales goes to education funding.
There was a remark I heard recently where we don't want Utah to turn into California, and it was directed at the tech community. We don't either. If we wanted to work and live in California, we would work and live in California.
Utah's booming tech industry is facing some growing pains, and it is impacting the rest of the state.
The rapid growth of Utah County's Silicon Slopes has made it a major player in the state. So what's wrong with that?
Fox 13's Ben Winslow reports.
At the Silicon Slopes Summit, a gathering of Utah's multi-billion-dollar tech industry.
We're not trying to turn Utah into Silicon Valley. I promise.
As Utah's tech industry grows in power and influence, comparisons to California's Silicon Valley and its problems are becoming more prominent.
Certainly, that tension is there.
Utah's governor was even asked about it during his appearance at the summit.
I think it's helpful to remember why we love Utah. What is it that has created the culture that has made it so we could thrive and be successful here? And if we're intentional about that, if we're intentional about, we lead the nation in upward mobility, that means not pricing people out. That means caring about everyone, lifting people up, giving back. That's the expectation we have.
According to a recent study, Utah's tech industry accounts for 1 in 7 jobs in the state and generates more than $20 billion a year. Utah is seeing issues with affordable housing, air quality, and the rising cost of living.
I don't think Silicon Slopes is becoming Silicon Valley. I think if we're becoming anything like them, it's largely in good ways, where there's more talent here for companies to draw from. We're attracting good talent.
Jonathan Johnson is the CEO of Overstock, one of Utah's first big tech companies.
I mean, tech is only going to grow, and if we don't keep up with it, it's going to grow somewhere else.
I think our community has a responsibility to step up and take on some of the challenges that come with the success of our industry.
The head of Silicon Slopes Commons, a group that represents much of the tech industry, acknowledges growing pains and its impact on the rest of the state.
We need to create opportunity for all. Silicon Slopes is not just Provo to Ogden, it's all of Utah.
One thing being floated here at the Silicon Slopes Summit by the governor, the idea of reworking incentives. Because of Utah's rapid growth, he says there's no need to spend money to lure companies to the state.
We don't need to attract every single job to the Salt Lake Valley anymore. But there are other places in the state that are struggling where we should be focused.
At the Salt Palace, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, we had our storm this morning, a little bit of snow here in the valleys, and then we had a spectacular sunset. So I wanted to go ahead and start with this just to show you the beauty from Salt Lake City this evening. Margaret Roberts perfectly capturing that. Thank you so much for sending that in. A different view right now, currently here in Salt Lake City. Here's what it looks like from our Tribune camera downtown. Obviously, it's dark outside now, 43 degrees, feeling like 43, and our high today was a chilly one. It was one of the coldest early October days that we've had here in Salt Lake City. So what it feels like right now, 43 in Salt Lake, 38 for Provo, 33 currently for Ogden, 32 for Logan. And for Salt Lake City on our almanac, this is well below average. A normal high is 66, but as I mentioned, today's high of 44 degrees here in Salt Lake City at the airport and and downtown. And downtown, that ties for our coldest daytime high on this day. So it was a very chilly day. Tomorrow will be a little bit warmer, but it's going to be a cold start tomorrow morning. We also have some areas of fog in the forecast for tomorrow morning. Freeze warnings tonight for portions of Utah. We also have concerns, even though we're done with the precipitation, still some icy spots may remain, specifically overpasses and bridges. So travel with caution. Our next storm moves in a couple of days, but we're seeing that clearing tonight, and we're going to see the temperatures really spiraling now that we're starting to see those clouds thinning. So still mostly clear to partly cloudy sky. Salt Lake from the U down towards West Valley, South Jordan, Harriman, Bluffdale, Sandy, Draper, down into Utah County, a few clouds, but mostly looking at clear sky currently south of I-70, Richfield down towards St. George. St. George, Zion National Park, both had beautiful sunny afternoons, and we do have some more sunshine in the forecast for you. But tomorrow morning, mostly clear here in Salt Lake, around freezing. 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then by lunchtime we're back into the 40s here in Salt Lake City. But it'll be a cool start tomorrow in the teens for Park City, 28 for Logan at 8 a.m., 34 for Ogden at that time, 31 in Provo, and then by tomorrow afternoon, got some sunshine returning, 53 for a high here in Salt Lake City, Park City 44, Moab 56, and for St. George, temperatures around 70 degrees tomorrow. So here's what I want to brag on for a second. Here in Utah, we're going to have some nice weather returning for this weekend. And as we take a look at tomorrow morning, eastern half of the country, many people waking up to cloudy sky and chances for rain, especially through the Midwest and up towards the Northeast. So we're going to have a pretty calm weekend on Futurecast here across Utah. For St. George, you're warming up. You're close to 70 tomorrow. Upper 70s for Saturday and Sunday, but you'll notice a little bit of a cool down Sunday into Monday for St. George by about 5 to 10 degrees. We'll also have a cool down here in northern Utah Sunday into Monday with a chance for some rain. We'll talk more specifics on that. Hope you enjoy your weekend with highs in the 60s, but we do have another cool down and that chance for rain early next week. We'll get into those specifics in just a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Allison. Still ahead, could Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine soon be available as a booster shot? A lot of people waiting to hear about this one. Still to come, the new recommendations from the FDA and what that means for you.
Welcome back. Visit Salt Lake has partnered with a local company to give tourists and locals a unique experience.
They're working with Salt and Honey Market, and today the two organizations held a grand opening of their new visitor center right inside the Salt Palace. In addition to information about Salt Lake, the visitor center will have a collection of items that are made by local shops, artisans, and designers. Some pretty fun items there. The center aims to give highlights. The center tries to highlight the area's diverse artistic community.
In Utah County, the Utah Transit Authority wants your input on expanding service. Frontrunner would go farther south from Provo to Payson, and express bus service would go from Payson to Santaquin. There is a virtual public meeting set up for next Tuesday night at 6. We have a link for the meeting and other ways you can share your opinion on our website, fox13now.com.
Well, a small town in Washington County getting a big boost to improve its water system. New Harmony is one of more than 100 rural communities across the country receiving federal funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The local water corporation will use a $50,000 loan and a $40,000 grant to finish some emergency improvements on its failing water system, give people in the area a reliable water source.
Still ahead on Fox 13 News at 9, it's a need that's becoming harder to fill, but one Utah school district is thinking outside the box. How they're meeting the demand for substitute teachers.
Plus, another shortage creating a crisis in Utah, the need for more police officers, what one police chief says is to blame, and how he says it can be fixed. So glad you're here with us tonight on A Little Later Doing Football. We're talking about the number of substitute teachers needed in Utah schools. It just continues to go up as more spots go unfilled.
Fox 13's Spencer Joseph has a look at the problem and what the Jordan School District is doing about it.
It's a normal day at Copper Hills High School. The students are in class. The hallways are packed. But there's one thing missing.
We're finding that there just aren't enough substitutes to cover the substitute assignments that we have available each day. Probably within the last month, we've seen that we've had 1 to 3 of those each day that go unfilled.
Okay, let's try that again. Principal Brian Veazey loves his Grizzlies and makes sure that their learning environment is the best it can be. But he admits things have been tough.
Last year was probably the most difficult year in the history of education, and that this year is most likely the most important. Teachers are tired. They really didn't get the break that they need. We find that with those empty positions that it becomes quite a scramble.
So how are you filling some of that?
It's kind of an interesting situation. We reach out to teachers. Teachers have been getting numerous emails each day for the last month or more asking if they're willing to cover for a colleague during their prep period.
Teachers like Ray Bourne.
Sports, what is sports?
Who teaches American Sign Language. She fills in where she can too, but if that doesn't work out.
3 of my 5 assistant principals who have been in the classroom teaching classes.
It's not just a problem here. Across Jordan School District daily, they have about 200 to 300 positions for subs, and every single day they fall short of that number.
You get the satisfaction that, you're helping educate these students.
But there is some help on the way. To incentivize new subs, the district is launching a new program.
Inviting people to try it out, see if they like it, and there is some incentive now of up to $500 for people who want to come and try out being a substitute teacher.
So if you've ever considered giving teaching a try, these passionate educators want you to know.
If they have the time available and if they have an interest in doing something outside of the box, I would encourage them to consider being a substitute teacher.
This is a great time to try it, see if you like it, and maybe you like working in our schools.
To find out more on how to apply, head to our website, fox13now.com. In West Jordan, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Roy Police Chief Matthew Gwynn says the shortage of officers statewide is a crisis, and he believes he has a fix.
Chief Gwynn is also a state lawmaker and believes a bill that he's proposing will bring officers back to work. Fox 13's Eliana Sheriff explains what Chief Gwynn believes is a major issue impacting officer retention.
I'm seeing a lot of support by former law enforcement officers who would actually come back if this bill were to be successful.
Roy Police Chief and state lawmaker Matthew Gwynn knows all too well there's a shortage of police officers statewide.
We have less people enrolling in the academy, right? We have less people graduating from the academy. And between 2011 and 2020, we know that 40% of those that even got jobs have, left law enforcement.
Chief Gwynn says here in Roy, they're down about 10% in patrol, which could affect response times in the event of an emergency.
I do understand the labor shortage, and I understand that we're all fighting for candidates from the same employment pool. But the reality is cities and counties have an obligation above all else for providing public safety to their residents.
He believes the problem dates back to 2011 when a bill passed by the legislature upped the number of years required for retirement from 20 to 25. It also added a cooling off period of a year before retirees could return to public service because of concerns about double dipping from public payrolls.
We have people that actually want to maybe retire from law enforcement, but they want to come back as a teacher, right? They enjoyed their environment as a school resource officer, and so then now they want to go in the classroom, and we're telling them that they can't do that.
Gwynn tried to pass it last year, but it failed to get anywhere on Capitol Hill. He says his colleagues in the legislature are more supportive of this new proposal.
This bill has already moved farther than my last bill did.
This bill goes back to a 20-year system and changes the one-year cooling off period to 60 days.
And I'm looking to just roll those 2 back.
And he says salary increases aren't enough to solve the problem.
Now the state needs to step up and correct what it did, at least partially, in 2010.
Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Chief Gwynn says he's already received unanimous support from the Interim Criminal Justice and Law Committee. Keep in mind the typical Utah legislative session sees over 1,500 bills introduced and roughly 450 pass. We'll continue to follow this story for you.
At the Silicon Slopes Summit today, Governor Spencer Cox reflected on the COVID-19 pandemic and the polarizing climate in Utah.
We've lost hundreds of people in Utah. 3,000 people have died, which is heartbreaking. But of those 3,000 now, the last 1,000, most of them didn't have to die. That keeps me up at night. Keeps me up at night that the disinformation that is happening in our society, that is kind of tearing us apart at the seams, that we can't have honest conversations about real facts, that keeps me up at night.
In all, 3,050 Utahns have died from COVID-19. 573 people are hospitalized with the virus. The weekly positivity rate is now 15.7%. But there is vaccination progress in Utah. The health department reports another 9,000 COVID-19 vaccines were given in the past day. 53.7% of all Utahns are now fully vaccinated.
Meanwhile, a panel of advisors to the FDA has voted to recommend a half-dose booster shot of the Moderna vaccine for seniors as well as younger adults at an increased risk of COVID-19. Like the Pfizer booster shot, Moderna's shot would be used at least 6 months after someone is fully vaccinated. The FDA is scheduled to review and vote on Johnson & Johnson's booster application tomorrow.
Coming up, the on and off abortion ban in Texas is back on again. We'll have details on tonight's federal court ruling. In national news, former President Bill Clinton has been hospitalized with a possible blood infection.
The former president's spokesperson says the 75-year-old was admitted to the facility at the University of California, Irvine, for a non-COVID related infection Tuesday night. We're told the former president is now on the mend and in good spirits. Reports say Mr. Clinton is in the intensive care unit, primarily for privacy.
A federal appeals court has ruled that the 6-week abortion ban in Texas will remain in force while it considers the appeal of a judge's order blocking the law. The Justice Department on Monday asked the appeals court to lift the ban while its suit challenging the new law was appealed. Some clinics resumed abortions to women who were more than 6 weeks pregnant after the law was blocked last week. This ban will likely end up before the Supreme Court again, but conservative justices have already refused once to act on the Texas legislation.
Real estate heir Robert Durst has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A judge in Los Angeles sentenced Durst for the murder of his friend Susan Berman. Prosecutors say Durst killed Berman to prevent her from telling investigators that she provided Durst with a phony alibi in connection with the disappearance of Durst's then-wife, Kathy. Kathy Durst disappeared in 1982. Her body has not been found, but her family had her declared legally dead in 2017.
The fourth child tax credit will start hitting bank accounts tomorrow. The monthly checks are slated to stop at the end of the year, but the Biden administration is looking to extend the payments until 2025. There has been pushback from some lawmakers questioning the cost and structure of the benefit. Ongoing research has shown the checks are helping to reduce hardship for low-income families across the country. In tonight's Money Watch, a new curveball is threatening to make massive labor shortages and supply chain issues across the country even worse.
Right now, more than 100,000 workers from Kellogg factories to Hollywood sets are either on strike or threatening to walk out. And today, about 10,000 John Deere employees did just that. Stacey Cohen reports.
Enough is enough. And that's where we are. We're at a breaking point.
More than 100,000 unionized workers across the U.S. are either on strike right now or are threatening to hit the picket line. Employees from Kellogg factories to Kaiser Permanente and even Hollywood sets. Some 10,000 members of the United Auto Workers Union, the latest to walk out, on farm and construction equipment maker John Deere, starting early Thursday morning.
They've made the sacrifices. They just want a decent paid job with some security, some good health care coverage, and the ability to have some respect and dignity at work.
John Deere's motto is, nothing runs like a deer. But right now, 14 different locations aren't running at all. Employees walking out after a deal to bump their wages fell through. Part of the rejected contract for UAW members at Deere would have given them immediate raises in their base pay of 5 to 6%. John Deere says, quote, "We are determined to reach an agreement with the UAW that would put every employee in a better economic position. We will keep working day and night to understand our employees' priorities and resolve this strike. The White House making clear they support unions and the right for workers to strike.
Our economy is shifting to a labor market where workers have more bargaining power. That means that workers can push for higher wages and more dignity and respect in the workplace.
Stacey Cohan, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The nation's 3 largest package delivery services are out with their holiday shipping deadlines. For UPS, 3-day select delivery and FedEx 3-day freight arriving by December 24th. You need to ship your items by the 21st. For Postal Service retail ground delivery arriving before December 25th. You should ship by December 15th. But even if you meet these deadlines, you could see late packages due to the ongoing pandemic and global supply chain disruptions. So order early.
Former NFL coach John Gruden is off the real football field and soon the virtual one. EA Sports will scrub the disgraced former Las Vegas Raiders head coach from its popular Madden NFL 22 video game. Gruden resigned this week after racist and homophobic emails from the past 10 years were published. EA Sports will put a, quote, generic coach in Gruden's place. An update will be published in the coming weeks.
Stocks soared on Wall Street today after better than expected earnings and economic data eased concerns about the economy. Jobless claims fell to their lowest level since the pandemic began. The Dow climbed 535 points to close at 34,913. The Nasdaq added 252 and the S&P rose 74.
Well, it is cold here across the state right now. Feels like 36 degrees here in Salt Lake City. A lot of the state will be below freezing as you wake up tomorrow morning. Coming up, where we have hard freeze warnings, where we could see areas of fog tonight, and also the timing of our next storm. Well, we had quite a bit of snow up in the mountains in the last day. Alta reporting 9 inches of snow. Cedar City 5.5. Deer Valley 5 inches. Lyman 2.5 up in Wyoming. Logan Radio Tower 3 inches of snow. Mill Creek and Park City both reporting 2 inches of snow. And for Alpine, 1 inch of snow. So tomorrow morning we're not going to have the snow, but we're going to have the possibility of some low visibility. So areas of fog going to be a possibility this evening. So please use caution when traveling. I'm not seeing any of it right now. It's more likely into the early morning hours, but keeping our eye on the Salt Lake Desert, the Cache Valley, Wasatch Back, Sanpete Valleys, Sevier Valley, and a Sevier Desert. So you'll want to just travel with caution here across the state this evening in case you come into any areas with lower visibility. But temperatures right now, that's our other concern tonight, how cold it's going to be. Feels like 36 here in Salt Lake. Feels like it's freezing in Logan at 32, 29 for Vernal, and for St. George, 57 right now. But when you wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be such a cool start. It's going to be the low 30s, 6 a.m., 8 a.m. here in Salt Lake City with mostly clear to mostly sunny sky, eventually becoming all out sunny. So grab the warm jacket tomorrow morning, and also you'll want to grab the sunglasses as you head out the door. So if your kids are walking to school first thing tomorrow morning, I'd suggest grabbing a beanie. It's going to maybe be even a little bit cooler than it has been the last few mornings since we're seeing a lot of those clouds thinning out. So clear sky about Richfield south into southwestern Utah, and then once you get over towards Moab, LaSalle, still a little bit of snow coming down, but overall the main problem is going to be a freeze warning for far eastern Utah for the areas highlighted in purple. Frost and freeze conditions can kill sensitive vegetation, crops, and also damage any unprotected outdoor plumbing. So this is going to be for the Moab area down towards landing into southeastern Utah. So what you can expect here across the state is we're going to end up with also some hard freeze warnings in place for the areas of purple down into central Utah. So that's Ridgefield, Hanksville, and then just west of Roosevelt. So overnight temperatures will be about 30 to 35 degrees here along the Wasatch Front when you first wake up. 31 in Provo, 35 for Ogden, 28 in Logan. And then by tomorrow afternoon, our temperatures will be close to about 50 to 55. So we're going to be warming up for the weekend. Then we're going to have our next storm that moves in. So by Sunday, more clouds, wind picks up. Then we see a few more chances for rain and snow by Monday here across the state. So we're going to keep our eye on that. Then we're also going to look at our extended precipitation outlook. So beyond the 7-day forecast, the outlooks are trending in week 2 We'll have wetter than usual conditions here across Utah. St. George close to 70 degrees tomorrow. Then upper 70s for Saturday and Sunday. A little bit of a cool down come Monday by a few degrees, but still around 70 for St. George. And for Salt Lake City, low 50s tomorrow, 60s for Saturday and Sunday. Cooler by Monday by about 10-15 degrees, mid 50s with a chance for some rain. But very cold mornings ahead, so make sure you're dressing warmly.
Around the corner in sports, BYU's offensive coordinator talks BYU's former offensive coordinator and what it's like to face him so quickly after his departure. And most of high school football wrapped up last night, but there was a big rivalry game on tap tonight. I'm back in just a bit. The biggest baseball game of the season thus far still ongoing from San Francisco tonight, where Barry Bonds on hand for a deciding Game 5. Dodgers on the board first, Blue double the other way. Corey Seager scoring Mookie Betts, but that LA lead didn't last long because bottom half, Darren Ruff is straight away center. The Dodgers, though, have since just gone back up in the 9th, and they lead their NL West rival 2-1. Bottom 9. Former BYU offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes has led Baylor to the third-ranked offense in the Big 12, just a year removed from building a juggernaut here in Provo. Aaron Roderick took over for Grimes back in January and says Saturday's game in Waco, Texas will be far from the funnest experience of his coaching career.
I don't enjoy this at all. I don't enjoy going against my friends. This is too serious of a business for us. I mean, this is life and death to the coaches, you know. So the fun part is when we don't have to play each other and we get to call up and you know, talk about the good times or whatever.
Roderick confirmed that Baylor Romney has been back at practice this week, though he wasn't sure whether he was number 2 or 3 on the quarterback depth chart. Jaron Hall is completely healthy again and the presumed starter Saturday against the 5-1 Bears. BYU Hoops was picked to finish second behind Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference preseason poll. The Cougars have finished second in the WCC the past 3 seasons, and Mark Pope returns 8 players to go along with 9 newcomers in 2021-22. Senior guard Alex Barcelo and sophomore forward Caleb Lohner were also named to the preseason All-WCC team. 8th-ranked Cougar volleyball at Loyola Marymount. BYU dropped set 1, their first lost set in over a month, but they cruise in set 2. PG's own Heather Knighting. Blue gritting out set 2 at the net before settling for the 4-set victory in Southern California Thursday, improving to 17-1. Some rivalry football with Region 3 on the line tonight in Riverton. First play of the game, Bingham hoped to set the tone. Forced deep ball is INT'd by Tatewan Sanders, leading to a Nate Chamberlain boot for the minor lead to start. Blue then adding 6 more. The QB Dallin Martinez barely touched on his way in, but then the Silver Wolves went for 14 unanswered in the second quarter. How about this ball? Jake Myers and Mason Dunfield making it look a little too easy. And here's Riverton for the lead. Josh Jacobson on the loose, 24-yard scoop after slipping a tackle near the line of scrimmage. But Bingham scored right before the half. Martinez is quick and passes pylon yet again, though credit the Wolves using a strong second half to beat Bingham for a second consecutive year and take that region title. And Tom Brady and the Bucs trying to be the first in the NFC to 5 wins. Former Salt Lake Bee Mike Trout on hand to watch him work with time to dance, and finding Antonio Brown snaps a 7-all tie with the Eagles. Tampa Bay then adding to it here before the break. Leonard Fournette across a big early lead, holding at the end 28-22. We'll be right back.
Pizza Hut celebrating the return of its $10 Tastemaker by creating a new TikTok challenge. Content creators and pizza fans can get their pizza orders added to Pizza Hut's menu. All you need to do is order your very own Tastemaker, then post about your personal combo recipe on TikTok. The winner's recipe will be featured on the menu for a limited time, and runners-up will have a chance to win thousands of dollars worth of free pizza.
Better than running the bathroom.
I'm salivating at 10:35.
That looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'll warm you up on a cold night.
Thanks for being with us.